Hey, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the Remarkable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Pacheco, and today with me I have Sterling Jaquith. Sterling is a Catholic life coach. She owns a life coaching membership for Catholic moms where coaches provide group and one-to-one coaching. She's an author, speaker, a podcaster, and this is exciting for me. She homeschools her 6 children in northern Idaho, which is something that my family, my wife and I plan on doing for our children. Not in northern Idaho, but in southern. Sterling, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I love your show. It's so fun.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. I love to open it up just by kind of inviting our guests to talk just a little bit about yourself, if you like, and tell us what got you into coaching.
Yeah. So from a young age, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I remember making a huckleberry pie with my grandmother. I was 11 and she was like, "Oh, you could sell these for a lot of money." I was like, "Yes, let's do that." And so I wrote this whole business plan for selling huckleberry pies. And I was like, "I'll just get my brother to pick the huckleberries and then we'll sell them." And I made a logo and I calculated out expenses. And I didn't make a single pie, but that's when I knew that I probably would love business. And so I tried on a lot of businesses. I was a dog trainer. I was in web design. I've been business consulting. I've done a lot of things and I have a finance degree. And one of the things you learn in business school is the value of reading business books. So I was always reading books, like the old books, like Dale Carnegie books, and then new books. I love Cal Newport's Be So Good They Can't Ignore You. And I would read these books, but I hadn't landed on what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I met a life coach. And I thought, that sounds like a dumb made up job. I don't know what that is. I don't think I like that at all. And I had a conversation with this woman. And by the end of it, I said, "What Jedi mind tricks did you just play on my mind?" Like, it was the most powerful conversation. And what ended up happening was I had all this knowledge from all the books that I had read and all the businesses that I'd started. But if you don't understand how your mind works, it's hard to unlock them. It's hard to unlock those tools and be able to use it. So as soon as I discovered life coaching, I knew I'd never look back and that I would be a life coach forever. And it really then just helped me take all of that stuff that I had learned and actually implement it in my life. And it really just changed everything for me.
Nice. I love it. Life coaching sounds like a dumb made up job. I love your candid. Thank you for that. I imagine, yeah. I mean, the first time you hear about something like that, you're like, "What are you, like a smart ant?"
Right. It's weird. And for Catholics in particular too, they're like, "Is it new agey? Are we going to be like rubbing crystals on our face? Like, what's happening?" And
burning sage.
And is it counseling, right? Like, it's very mysterious. And it's also, I just want to say, you guys, very expensive. Like, if you have no reference for paying for coaching in any way, and you see that price tag, it's very surprising the first time. But I say it so confidently now because I just know what it does to people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Cool. So, life coach for Catholic moms specifically, what led you into that unique niche?
Yeah. So I did not grow up Catholic or religious at all. My parents didn't go to church, anything like that. And I ended up becoming religious at 23, somewhere between 23 and 24. And I was like, okay, I'll buy this Jesus thing. And I was like all in on being a Protestant. And that was the first time I had decided that I wanted to get married and have kids. Up until that point, no desire to get married, didn't want any children, 0 children, you guys. So I want you to remember that when I talk about my 6 children that I have now. And so then it was 2009 and I wrote down in my goals, meet my husband this year. It was the first time I had ever written anything like that. And I absolutely ended up meeting him that October, and he was Catholic. So that's a whole story in and of itself, but I just ended up converting. I was like, this is the guy for me. So I must be being called to be Catholic. And so I converted at 25. And when we got married, I said, listen, I'm not doing that Catholic thing. I'm only having 2 kids. I'm not doing the buckets of kids thing. I have no interest in that. I told him that's what we do. And he said, all right. And then it was just harder to pull that off than I thought it was, actually. So now we have 6 children. And now that I have them, I love it. It's a crazy circus in my house. But I knew that I wanted to niche down to Catholic moms because they're such an underserved market, right? Like, they're not reading business books. They're not reading the 7, highly successful habits, right? They're not doing that. And so even though what I do isn't particularly Catholic or for moms, there are a lot of these general tools that a lot of coaches are teaching. I do it through the lens for Catholic moms because I want them to enjoy their day-to-day lives. Like, so many of them just don't enjoy waking up and living their regular life. And I know I can fix that for them. And so I knew that's who I wanted to work with.
Nice. Interesting. Where or how do you get your clients? How do you market something like life coaching for Catholic moms?
Yeah. So before I discovered life coaching, I had a podcast. And what I would do is every week I would read a business book, and then I would pull some sort of practical thing out of that book and apply it to moms. And so I would read Good to Great, and I'd say, you guys, this is how you can apply some things from that book to running your home and to being a mom, whether they were working moms or not, just kind of the mom gig. And I did that for 5 years, and I wasn't making any money, which is funny. Now I look back and I see all these ways that I was playing small and had really low ticket courses. And so I was working pretty hard, but I wasn't making a ton of money, but my podcast was very successful. So when I discovered life coaching, I closed that podcast and I announced to everyone that I was going to be a life coach, and that's the only thing I was going to talk about. And my email list at the time was maybe 8,000. So I like to tell that to people who are starting their life coaching business. The trajectory of mine looks great because nobody's looking at that 7 years, right, that I was working before I launched it. But I had a pretty good email list to start with. And I had self-published 4 books for Catholic moms. So when people ask me how to grow your business, I'm just a huge fan of podcasting and a huge fan of self-publishing. I think those are 2 pretty easy ways to stand out in the crowd.
I love it. I mean, you and I, transparently, we were talking about this before I hit record. You had asked me, what value can you bring for me for the podcast? And I said, just having the podcast is value for me because it gives me that exposure. It gives me that perceived authority within the realm of whatever the subject of the podcast is. In my case, obviously, it's coaching. So that's fantastic. I love the idea of business books applied to moms, and specifically, I want to circle back. Good to Great, Jim Collins, applied to moms. How? I love it.
Well, that was 7 years ago, so I'm trying to remember. The one I did after that one was Simon Sinek's Why. Like, Simon Sinek teaches about understanding your why, and I would challenge them about that. I would be like, what's your why? Why are you a mom? Why are you sending the kids to school or homeschooling them? Why is this your life? I think you have kids and then you're just kind of at the mercy of day-to-day living. And so there's very little intentionality around it. They're not creating a business plan for their life. And so I would invite them into doing that. And, when it comes to building a team and getting the right people on the bus, right? I think what it is knowing how to set yourself up for success. So it's not true that a lot of moms have a chauffeur and a cook and a cleaner. They're not actually managing a team, but I would invite them to think about the different roles that they play and to think about those as team members, or to wear that hat. We talked a lot about, like, okay, when you're wearing this hat, what is important to you and what do you need to focus on? Because otherwise you're just touching everything in your life all the time and it feels very chaotic and it's not satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. I wonder if for Good to Great, I wonder if maybe the Hedgehog concept could be applied to moms somehow. Like, what's your core, what is it? What did he call it? Your core capability or something.
Yeah. And also just knowing, and this is kind of where I bring Jesus into it too, is that he's calling you to be a mom your way, right? And so if you're introverted, that's going to look different than if you're extroverted. And we kind of read these books or listen to podcasts and we have an idea that there's the way to do it. And we try to put ourselves in that box. And instead, when you just go, well, what are my strengths? How can I use them? For example, I do not love little children. I'm not a really playing on the floor kind of mom. And for a while, I thought that was a problem. And instead, I just realized, God knew that about me. And he still gave me 6 kids to take care of. And so I just do the things that I love to do with them, which is we talk about books. Now that my kids are a little bit older, we talk about money, we talk about business and trying things and failing. And now I talk to them about life coaching, which is not their favorite thing. They're like, oh, don't life coach me again, Mom. But I think, one of the things business books invite you to do almost always is to slow down, reflect on what's working and what's not working, and then intentionally design the future. All of them do that. And moms are just not, other than New Year's resolutions, moms rarely take that space to say, what am I trying to create here? And how can I do that?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can we talk a little bit more about how much religion plays into your coaching process?
Yeah,
just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for me, it's a big part. And I'm extremely religious. Like if there was a bell curve, I'm like extremely Catholic and probably more on the conservative side of Catholics. And so one thing we do is we pray for every call that we do, whether it's a group coaching call or a one-on-one call. And I pray before the calls too. And I just ask God to guide me. And so I describe it as kind of this relationship with me and the client, and then God is there too. And I'm always listening for things, right? And so a non-religious person might describe it as an intuition or keying into the universe. But there's so many times when I just feel a nudge to ask a certain question or to call something out. And it feels like it's not of me. And so that's kind of one way that we bring religion into it. And then particularly for Catholics, we have a long set of rules. It's a very rule-based religion. And so our clients feel comfortable knowing that they're going to come and I'm not going to coach them to do something that's against the rules.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That tracks. What does a typical engagement look like between you, but for your clients? Do you work with them on like a month-to-month retainer, or do you have like a 3-month program or 6-month program?
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I wanted to launch a membership was I wanted to bring that price point down to get people to give life coaching a try. So our membership at the moment is $49 a month, which is just such a steal. Like if I could grab every human and shake their shoulders and say, like, find a life coaching membership and just do it, because in 1 month, I can give them just some very basic tools that will radically improve their life. I mean, I went from drowning and feeling overwhelmed and not really enjoying my children. And I was 70 pounds heavier than I am now. And my marriage was hard because we were also running a contracting business. There was like all this stuff. And when you learn these tools, all of those things can stay the same. And you know how to manage your mind around it. And so I learned how to recognize when I was eating just because I was stressed. And that's not a novel concept. Everyone's aware of stress eating, but what they may not understand is it's a thought that they're thinking that's creating the stress. And the thought may feel really simple, like, I can't handle this. Like if you've got 2 little children crying at the same time, your brain's just going to go, I can't handle this. And then from that thought, you'll feel overwhelmed. And then we hate that feeling. And so that's when we're grabbing for our phones or grabbing cookies or grabbing an early glass of wine to try to numb that feeling out. And so I can show them how to slow it down to see what's happening in their mind. And then they can completely redesign their life. And I would say that's the hardest part about selling life coaching, is it almost sounds too good to be true. But I've seen it hundreds of times now. So I just tell them, like, listen, this sounds too good to be true, but you can lose weight and manage your time well and enjoy your children and have a better marriage and like all of it. And it really is possible when you learn how to hear your thinking and how to choose thoughts on purpose.
Sure. Have you worked with anybody either in a group setting or one-to-one who has not been Catholic or not been religious? And if so, how do you, or do you adapt your teaching style for that person?
Yeah. So for our membership, we do have people who say, I'm not Catholic, can I join? Or I'm not a mom, can I join? So they're Catholic, but they don't have kids. And so we say, absolutely, as long as you understand, we're going to say Jesus and mom a lot. Like we're going to say that a lot. I don't adapt my classes for that. But if somebody came on and they started asking for coaching one-on-one, because we do group coaching calls. And so I'll just say, raise your hand if you need coaching, and someone comes on. And so if that person told me, hey, I'm not Catholic or I'm not a mom, that doesn't matter to me, right? I'm going to coach on whatever they need coaching on. Sure. And in coaching, we're really taught to have no opinion about what the client should do. So my job is to just ask you really thoughtful questions to lead you to what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And so I can coach anyone on anything. I just chose Catholic moms because I wanted to help that particular group of people.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What sort of things did you struggle with when you first started coaching?
I definitely thought it would fill up faster. I thought in a year we would hit 1,000 members. Like I would just open the doors and everyone would see it was amazing, and then they would all just come. And we didn't. We ended the year at 250, which was still, you guys, incredible, right? Like it's incredible to build a membership that people pay you every month. 250 people. That's incredible. But it was just less than I thought. And so our work is really just, how can we say it a different way? How can we invite them in a different way? Mm-hmm. How can we make them feel safe to say yes, right? Because really, if someone's saying no, but they do want it. So I only ever think about my ideal clients. I'm not trying to convince people who aren't ideal clients to be my clients. There's already a pool of people who have the money and the time. They're going to do the work, and this is going to be so perfect for them. Those are the only people I ever think about my marketing. Mm-hmm. And then I think of them and I'm like, okay, but she doesn't feel safe to say yes yet. Why? And then that's kind of our big work, and it's still our work. And so we're about to launch 3 new funnels, and then we'll run Facebook ads to those. So one of them is going to be a free 14-day Love Your Husband challenge. And so you'll sign up, it's free, and you'll get 14 emails with a prayer and like a tip, and then a challenge to do something with your husband, like maybe give him a kiss or do something nice for him or give him some time off, something like that. And then our hope, of course, is that as they're, you're like, I would like that challenge. It's true. It was really great. We ran it last year and we had 2,000 people do it. And so now we're going to kind of run it all the time and run an ad to it. And then our hope is that through that, people see just a little bit of life coaching, because we just have like a little bits of life coaching in those emails, and that they begin to trust us enough to give it a try.
I love it. I love it. Are you guys doing your marketing, you're building the funnels and advertising? Are you guys doing that in-house, or have you guys outsourced that?
Yeah, we hired someone one time to do one ad with us, and she was so great because the package was that she kind of walks you through doing it. So she showed us how to set it up and how to kind of dial in some of the markets. We were doing a lookalike campaign. So for those of you that don't know, you're going to upload your email list, and then Facebook robots are like, okay, we know who those people are, and we're going to go find people who look like those people. And so then once she set it up, we kind of understood it at that point. And so we've been running them on our own and checking them. And then we have a pretty intense email system set up through Entreport, because we run our marketing or our website and our membership that way too. So I don't always recommend that people start at that level, but we knew we were going to build a multi-million-dollar company. So we just kind of started with some of those heavy hitting software things right away. But yeah, it's just trial and error, Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. So I guess I'll tell you in 6 months how it goes.
Awesome. Great. So tell us about some of your big wins. What are some big wins that you've had with your clients?
Yeah, our clients a lot of our clients come for weight loss. So that's pretty fun to see someone and that was my story, right? I was heavy for most of my life. It wasn't because I had 6 kids. I was 210 pounds the day that my husband proposed to me. So like, just to give a sense of that. And I'm pretty short, you guys. I'm only 5'3", so I'm kind of an itty bitty person. And yeah, I just always struggled with that. And I did every kind of diet out there, and I just couldn't quite figure it out. And so it wasn't until I learned some very specific life coaching tools that I just lost all of my weight pretty quickly and have kept it off. And that was such a compelling story, because so many of these people had been watching me for 7 years. And so they just saw it. They were like, what happened to you? That's really what it looked like. And it's cool to have an outside transformation. Now, a lot of our clients have interior ones, but a lot of our clients come from weight loss, and they really just have the same story. I struggled for decades and decades. And then this is the thing that I figured out. And now they just don't feel scared around food anymore. Like, they get to choose what they eat. They don't feel at the mercy of really something that they thought was probably a personality defect. Like, oh, I'm broken, so I can't figure this out. And to watch them have that win never gets old, right? It never gets old to watch people become more healthy and feel free around food. It just feels amazing. But the other big win that our clients have consistently is improving their relationships. Like, oh, things used to be really strained with my mom or my brother or my husband, or, I never knew how to speak up for myself. I never knew how to set boundaries. We've had clients with, social anxiety. And when we feel trapped in our own relationships, it's pretty horrible. It's pretty painful, and it's confusing when the people you love are hurting you, and being with them feels so hurtful. And so we just help them, one, manage their thoughts around that, because sometimes the people aren't hurting them. They're just perceiving it that way. And then sometimes the people are, and we teach them how to set strong boundaries and to say no and to protect themselves, and that that's okay. And we just get emails all the time from people who say, that was the best Thanksgiving I ever had. I took a vacation with my family and we didn't scream at each other. And so just giving people the gift of healthy relationships is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's not the worst. That's not the worst thing.
Yeah.
Circling back to the weight loss. So you've got you personally had some life coaching techniques that helped you lose weight, and you're kind of helping your clients with that as well. Would you mind giving away a little bit maybe of that secret sauce here on the podcast, and just kind of tell us, like, what sorts of things do people struggle with from a mindset perspective?
Right.
And what sorts of tools or tactics can you give maybe some of our listeners to begin, opening up that Pandora's box of self?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I am a life coach school coach. And so I went to the life school, and they teach you all sorts of things, but they also teach you a weight loss program within there. And so that is what I did while I was becoming a coach. I just did the program that they were teaching. I didn't hire anyone to help me do that. But one of the things that I think is so helpful is knowing that you can handle feeling an urge and letting it go unanswered. So what happens is, when your brain gets stressed out, it's like, oh, I love you. I love you so much. And you seem stressed out right now. And do you know what would make you feel better? Cookies. Cookies would make you feel better.
An entire sleeve of Oreos would make
An entire sleeve. Yeah. And you know what? It's true. I want you guys to know that you're not like a garbage human. Like, yes, eating cookies floods your brain with dopamine, and it feels amazing. It does, in fact, work. Okay. So you can love your brain for being smart and taking care of you. What it doesn't connect, though, is that even though it works and you feel great, tomorrow you feel terrible.
Right.
Or 2 years from now, when you've like packed on weight, that the pain long term is more than the discomfort in the moment. And so, but here's what happens. We feel stress or anger, frustration, or any of those feelings we don't want to feel. And your brain's like, oh, I love you. Let's do the cookie thing. And you have a thought like, I deserve this. I want this. That sounds good. This is terrible, right? Some thought pops in your brain. And then physically, you will physically have an urge to eat those cookies. And we just think we have to do it. when we feel that, it just feels as if we have to do it. And so one of the things that we teach them is to recognize an urge. We have a worksheet that I tell them to tape inside of a kitchen cupboard. It says 100 urges, and to let an urge go unanswered, because your brain has created a neural pathway in your mind from this is terrible to I eat the cookies and feel better. And it's a well-worn path.
Yeah.
But if that urge comes up and it goes unanswered, because of neuroplasticity, you guys, that pathway will dissolve just a little bit, not all the way. But if you don't answer the cookie urge like 5 times, it will eventually go away. And that's why I tell them, you can get to the place where you go to a party and all your favorite foods are there for free and you don't eat them. And that seems impossible right now because your brain is full of these pathways and they're strong and deep. And so we encourage people to let 100 urges go unanswered. And if you write them down on the worksheet, what happens in a much smaller way is brains love filling things out. And so as soon as you start putting things on that worksheet, you'll actually get a tiny dopamine hit every time you write something down, and it'll start being like, ooh, we're halfway there. Ooh, we want to fill this up. And so if you don't learn anything about your mind or thoughts or any of that, if you can just let urges go unanswered, that is one of the biggest steps to just losing weight or quitting smoking or not scrolling on your phone or any of those addictive behaviors, and just believing that, yes, the neural pathways will dissolve and then you won't feel the desire to do it.
I love that. That's a brilliant little hack. I think, an empty form is an open loop, and nature abhors a void. And so if there's an open loop, your brain wants to close it. So every time you fill it out, you're starting to fill out that form, you're closing that loop. That's great. I love that. For me, I just don't buy the cookies.
Right. Actually, that's one of my big things is I have great willpower at the store. And so I just have great willpower at the store, and then it's just not in my home. But then I would go to events and I would eat 4 or 5 pieces of pizza. Like it was free and I liked it. And my friends were there. And then if you have one alcoholic drink, all your rules go out the window because your prefrontal cortex isn't there as strongly. And so even if you went with great resolve, if you have 1 glass of wine, now we're eating all the breadsticks, like for sure you are. And so just learning to understand yourself and what works for you, I think, is really helpful when it comes to weight loss.
And there's also the problem of other people in the household. For example, like you, I myself have great willpower in the store.
Yeah.
My wife is the exact opposite. She will buy everything and sit in the cupboards and she'll forget about it and I'll end up eating it all.
Yeah. And so in our program, we teach you how to make that okay. Because we live in a world where stuff is everywhere. And I tell them, I can teach you how to make food look like cigarettes. Because here's the thing. If I came over to your house and it was your birthday and I brought cigarettes and they were $500 each one, they were like special cigarettes from Paris. And I said, do you want these cigarettes? You'd probably be like, no, thanks. I don't smoke. Right. And I'd be like, oh, but they're really expensive. Like they're from Paris. This one cigarette's $500. You'd be like, that's cool. I didn't even know cigarettes were expensive, but you'd be like, no, I don't want them. Right. And I'd say, but it's your birthday. Why aren't we doing that? And it's because in your mind, I'm just making some wild assumptions about you, but let's go with it. In your mind, you're like so clear that smoking is not good for your body.
Yeah.
Your commitment to not smoking is so high that can be in the room and it's not a problem for you. Sure. And so we can build that same level of commitment in someone's mind about the food. And then for me, it's free coffee cake at brunch. That's like my Olympics. Okay. Free coffee cake at brunch. And so, we can teach you how to be at that event and that your commitment to whatever you've decided is so high, the coffee cake isn't tempting anymore. Right. And that's pretty incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it. So we do get a lot of people for weight loss, but we have programs on minimalism and parenting and marriage and stress and overwhelm, time management goals, that kind of stuff. So we have really every major life topic that you would want to improve. And we bring people in and we teach them one tool, just one, and then they can go anywhere they want and work on the part of their life that they'd like to improve.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. And like you said, the weight loss is, really just the external result, but there's all stuff that's happening internally that's harder to quantify. And I think coaching, really any kind of coaching, whether it's life coaching or executive coaching, business consulting, it really kind of addresses this nebulous space called mind that we just call mindset, right? Because that's what we've decided to call it. But it's all this like this nebulous stuff that's kind of hard to describe. But it's cool too. Sometimes you get an external result that's very, very easy to quantify.
Yeah. And a lot of our clients will say, my kids notice a difference. My husband notices a difference. My coworkers, like when you learn how to live with emotional regulation, which is really what we're teaching people to do, you just seem so calm and grounded. And people are so attracted to that. They're like, what is happening? Because you seem calm, not even happy, right? Like we sell calmness more than anything. And people really, they can tell when that shifted in you, and they will ask you what happened. And our clients will say, well, I learned some tools and it really made a big difference. We also offer one-on-one coaching. So we have a team of coaches, and then within our membership, people can sign up for 3 months of one-on-one coaching, and we walk them through whatever it is that they, came wanting to fix. And the way I like to explain it is, it's like if somebody took a person and spun them around in a circle, like we're spinning them around and spinning them around. And then when you're done spinning and you're a little bit dizzy and you're trying to walk towards your goal, you're not very good at walking towards your goal. It's very likely that you're going to walk in the wrong direction or not even know where you're going.
You're swinging pinata, but the pinata's behind you.
Yeah. And so a coach just holds your shoulders for a moment to get you to be not dizzy anymore. And then says, remember, you're walking this way. And then you start walking this way. And so whether we're doing life coaching or business coaching, we really describe coaching as getting you where you want to go faster, because we're just helping you not to spin out in confusion and overwhelm and fear and stress. And so if you can have someone just hold your shoulders or your brain still for, an hour, then you go, oh, okay, I forgot. Now I see. Here's where I'm going. Here's how I'm getting there. And then you don't waste any time walking in the wrong direction. You just start walking again in the right direction.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see, Sterling, can you tell us about so we talked about some wins. Tell us about some failures. When have you royally screwed up and learned a lot from it?
Yeah, right. So I've failed a lot in my many years of business. Right before I launched the life coaching membership, I was doing some business coaching, and a bunch of people were like, oh, we really want like a group. They really wanted a group, and they were like, can you teach us all these things? And I had enough people ask me that I told my husband, I said, you know what, I think I'm going to launch this product. And so I made a $2,000, like, I can't remember how long it was, 3 or 6 month kind of container where I was going to take these women and we were going to build out their businesses, and they were going to grow and make money. And no one signed up for it. And that was really like such a great moment for me, because I had built the web page and I'd shot the videos and I was really confident in it, and they had asked for it and no one signed up. And so I love that for me, because now I know that's my worst case scenario. And I've already lived through that. My worst case scenario. I'm sorry, say that again.
Did you love it at the time?
No, I'm sure I cried for 2 days and I felt embarrassed and dumb, and it was so painful. But of course, now I share this story with all my clients and I visualize it with them. I'm like, let's go there. Let's go to the place where we launched this new thing that you're doing and no one signs up. And I tell them the worst thing that can happen to us, other than dying, but you're dead, so we don't need to worry about that, is feeling a negative feeling. And so I'll just say, let's just sit here and feel rejection on purpose. Let's feel failure on purpose. And feelings take about 90 seconds to pass through the body. And so I will literally just walk them through feeling really yucky feelings. And then it settles out, it kind of processes out. And I say, how was that? And they're like, oh, it was terrible. I'm like, yeah, but did you die? And they're like, no, I didn't.
Are you going through it? Yes,
yeah. And so then I just say, that's literally the worst thing that can happen for you. And when we feel strong against that, then we're so much more brave. We're so much more courageous. And we're willing to put more work out there because we know that failure isn't the end. And now also I've learned to do more market research before I launch something. Like getting a handful of emails, people asking for something does not necessarily mean that my product or the price point is right for the market.
Yeah. I've learned that the hard way as well. When you get people asking for something, it is not equivalent to them paying for something.
Right. Yeah.
That product market fit. That's a great one. Sweet. Sterling, is there anything else that you would like to chat about that we haven't touched upon already?
I just think that coaching is such a great career. I think that we are just at the beginning of an explosion of coaching. I think the way it used to be when people were selling gym memberships, like imagine the first waves of gyms and somebody would say to their friend, yeah, you have to leave your house and pay money to exercise in another building. Like that sounded so crazy when people started creating gyms. And now it's just so commonplace. Like a lot of people have gym memberships and a lot of people are paying $150 a month for a CrossFit membership where they yell at you and make you do horrible things, right? And I just think life coaching is going to be the same way, where it's kind of mysterious and people don't quite understand it. But then the more people do it and they start talking about it, you just get to this place where you realize, wow, I'm such a better human when I do this. I'm so much more me when I do this, right? I mean, coaching just makes me live into my authentic self and who I was always supposed to be. And I just kept trying in inefficient ways. And so I think it's going to become more and more normal for people to have life coaches or business coaches. And we've already accepted that in sports, right? Nobody tries to achieve anything big in sports without at least one coach. Sometimes they have lots of coaches, and so I think life can be the same way. And we're just going to see more and more of that grow.
I love it. Sterling, Jaquith, where can our listeners and viewers connect with you online?
Yeah, our website is madeforgreatness.co. If you forget the M, you'll know because you'll be at a weird Russian guy's website who sells perfume, and that's not me. So madeforgreatness.co is me. And our podcast is named Made for Greatness as well. And that comes from a famous pope who said, the world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort. You were made for greatness. And that's really kind of what we're trying to lead people to, is their own personal brand of greatness for them. And then I also have a business podcast called Made for Business, where I coach Catholic moms who work from home how to make more money.
Awesome. I love it. We'll get those links on the show notes for sure. Sterling, Jaquith, thank you so much for joining us on the Remarkable Coach podcast. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for giving a voice to so many coaches. I think coaching is going to change the world. So I think we should keep talking about it.
We believe that as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers and listeners for joining us as well. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers.